Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we have with us Dina Saranana Das Prabhuji, and we are reading chapter 12, the devotional service, text 10 today. Prabhuji, I hand over the session to you. Hare Krishna.
Someone would like to read the word for word, the verse.
Okay, Kumar Prabhuji, kindly read the word to word, please. Prabhuji, do we read the text first or just we start with the word to word?
Well, it's text 10 today.
Yes. Shall we
Yeah.
read the text, Prabhuji? Or
Yeah.
do we?
Okay. Abhyasamartosi.
Marthosi.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Madartamapi karmani.
Madartamapi karmani.
Purvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Purvan siddhim avapyasi.
Hare Krishna.
Asamartosi.
Abhyasya samarthosi.
Karma paramo bhava.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Tamapi karmani.
Madartamapi karmani.
Purvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Purvan siddhim avapyasi.
So someone would like to read the word for word.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Apyase, in practice.
In practice.
Abhi,
Abhi,
even if.
even
Asamartha,
asamartha,
unable.
unable.
Asi,
Asi.
you are.
You are.
Mat karma,
Can I help you?
my work.
Jyoti,
My word.
Ganga.
Parama,
Parama.
dedicated you.
Dedicated.
Pava,
Bhava.
become.
Become.
Matardam,
Matar.
Artham,
for my sake.
for my sake.
Abhi, even.
Even.
Karmani,
Karmani,
work.
work.
Kurvan,
Kurvan,
performing.
perform.
Siddhim,
Siddhi.
perfection.
Perfection.
Avapsyasi,
Avyapyasi.
you will achieve.
You will achieve.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Responsibly, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga,
If you cannot practice the regulation of Bhakti Yoga,
then just try to work for me.
then just
Then just try to work for me.
Because by working for me,
Because by working for me,
you will come to the perfect stage.
you will come to the perfect stage.
Purport by His Divine Grace ISKCON founder, Srila Prabhupada. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, One works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the result of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. That might be understood. If one cannot sacrifice all the results, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. And the text again, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Vanchakalpatrubhasta kripa sindhu parevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavevo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is entitled Devotional Service. And the chapter began with Lord Krishna firmly establishing that personal devotion to him in his original personal form is the perfectional stage of self-realization and the highest form of worship and the highest kind of spirituality. And Lord Krishna went on to explain and is explaining what kind of devotion to him, what kind of bhakti pleases him. And Lord Krishna will go on to explain a little bit later what are the thinking patterns, what kinds of thoughts, what kind of attitudes, what kind of perspectives do we as devotees cultivate, how we look at things, what our values are. Ultimately, Lord Krishna will conclude that those who fully take up the practice of bhakti and dedicate their mind and body and hearts to Lord Krishna, to him, are very, very dear to him. And by doing that, we will attain the highest happiness in this life and return home back to the spiritual world. So in this particular section, Lord Krishna is describing the different levels of devotion. And for me, I have found, and I'm sure other devotees, this is very, very useful information in terms of what do we actually do? How do we actually live according to our advancement? According to the Vaishnava Acharyas, there's that process of having some faith and hearing about Krishna and taking up the process, and then the process, we become purified, we become more faithful, we develop a taste, we're happy to hear about Krishna, which deepens into emotional attachment to Krishna. But it's not that each stage cuts off and then there's no more of the other. They all exist at the same time, although one stage may become more prominent. For example, in the stage of Nishta, so we take shelter of the spiritual master, we begin to follow sadhana, we follow sadhana, and our heart becomes more and more free of ignorance and passion. And because it's freed of ignorance and passion, and we develop more knowledge, we become more faithful, we become more steady. But we still have our times of not being so faithful. It's an ever increasing process. We get more and more faith, more and more faith. And then as we develop more and more inner faith, then ruchi, the next stage of having a taste, of enjoying Krishna consciousness, begins to develop more and more and more. So when I was reading the purport just now, I was thinking about myself and probably other devotees, some other devotees, that sometimes we may not feel like chanting our rounds. I'll chant them later. I just can't do it right now. So then what do? Just watch television or watch videos or go to the movies. So then this is so practical. Well, all right, I don't feel inclined to read right now, but I can go in the garden and I can look after the vegetables and the flowers for Krishna. I can make some jewelry for Krishna. I can look at my business. I can do my work, make money for Krishna, right? So usually in the stage of Vaidhi Bhakti, we find it easier just to do things for Krishna than to just sit and read and just sit and chant. You know, we appreciate the value, but honestly speaking, we don't always feel like sitting and chanting 32 rounds. It's just, we're not there yet. So this is very wonderful that we can still be in the realm of Krishna consciousness. Krishna accepts this. This is I feel an important thing, that Krishna accepts this. Other people may not accept it. Our own mind may not accept it. But Lord Krishna says that this is a genuine stage of devotion. And there are other stages of devotion which Krishna accepts, which later on in a few verses, Lord Krishna will say that if you can't do this, then just be peaceful. Just try not to get upset about things and do some good work for others. But Krishna accepts that. You know, it's not an all or nothing thing, that unless I do this, then I'm a devotee. No. Anyone who has faith in God, who believes in Krishna, is a devotee. So we are always situated as a devotee, and we may be engaged according to those different levels. As we advance, we may not want to be so busy doing business for Krishna. We may, well, you know, I'll do some business, but I really want to focus more on getting home early and having bhajan and reading about Krishna, hearing about Krishna, sitting in front of my deities and doing bhajan. So that will become increasingly something more that we become attracted, and in the sense of, in terms of maybe not wanting to do that as much before. We may still want very much to grow flowers and vegetables and make things for our deities and to make money for Krishna. As we advance in our devotion, of course, we'll want to do more. You know, as they say, talk is cheap. If you really care about someone, then you usually try and do something as far as you're able to. So it's not that a very pure awakened devotee just sits around meditating, but because Lord Krishna wants that everyone, as soon as possible, have the opportunity of light and wisdom and love of God, the devotee wants to do that. The devotee wants to be of service. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining here that especially for people who have not yet taken vows of following sadhana, then we encourage them, and we encourage ourselves too, that just do some work for Krishna. And it's a mystical thing, actually. There's a mystical aspect to this, which Lord Krishna discusses in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that by offering the results of our activities towards him, specifically towards those who are more engaged in his service, then we get benefit. We may not see it, but it's a mystical benefit. Krishna is writing down in his book, so to speak, that we are offering whatever we can towards the cause of divinity. This is one of the foundational principles of Varnashram. We hear about, well, not we hear about, but we know different people have different inclinations. Some want to teach and read and study. Others prefer to do business. Others are satisfied just to be of assistance to others, doing secretarial work or manual work. These are natural categories, but all of them, by offering the results of their activities as much as possible to those who are engaged in missionary work, then it's like electricity. Everyone will benefit. Everyone will benefit. And not to go too far into it, but according to Daivi Varnashram, or divine Varnashram, or divine categorization of society, even as we awaken spiritually, it doesn't mean necessarily we're not going to be so good at doing business or managing. We know there's certain devotees, they love to hear and chant, but we probably better they're not managers. It's just they don't have a background for it. But whatever work we end up doing externally, inside we will become more and more Brahminical. The person who is doing the secretarial profession or working in the garden, vegetables, or doing business. From an external point of view, we might say that's Vaishya activity, that's Brahminical activity, that's Sudra activity. And in one sense it is, but within the devotee, their consciousness, as they truly practice, will become Brahminical. So you have someone in Brahminical consciousness who's building things and fixing stuff and working on cars, but within they're Brahminical, or someone's doing business, or someone is managing. So that's how Daivi Varnashram works, that we keep using our God-given tendencies, but by practicing sadhana within, we'll become an illumined soul, an awakened soul. And people who don't know the science of bhakti, or even our own minds, may not understand how that is. It may look that we're just looks like a regular woman who's a wife of a particular man, and she has kids, and she's taking care of the children and doing the laundry. And it may, for someone who isn't familiar, that's all they may see. Whereas that woman or the man or whoever it is could be, I mean, there's no rubber stamp. It's not that sometimes devotees occasionally, well, we're transcendental. Why are we transcendental? Well, I got initiated. It doesn't work like that. We actually have to live. We have to do the things that the devotees do. So if a devotee is living according to the sadhana, then within they may be at any point on that progress of self-realization, stage of ruchi or a shakti or bhava, and we would be able to tell, and we can tell for ourselves, just so we're not fooling ourselves. Well, I'm transcendental, I'm doing business 16 hours a day making money. Maybe. But honestly, what is my attraction to hear about Krishna? What do I talk about? What does the person talk when they have some time, when they meet with someone? What do they mostly talk about? Because what people talk about is on their mind. Just like it's said about Srila Prabhupada, he built a pretty good sized business. Pharmaceuticals or herbal supplements. And people who were interviewed said that he would come in to establish accounts or to check on the accounts. But they noticed that mostly what seemed to be his main meditation was Krishna. He would always turn the conversation to something which indicated that that's the main thing going on in his head, right? In his heart. Yeah, so it's not that anyone can just say, well, I'm transcendental. Yeah, how enthusiastic are you to take spare time to hear about Krishna or do bhajan or something directly visible, hearing and chanting about Krishna, puja, archana, like this. Yeah, talk, anyone, well, someone says, I love you, really. I ask you to do so many things, and really, it's a little hard to believe. So Krishna's like that too. He knows our heart, and therefore he knows. So there's going to be another verse. I don't want to get too far ahead, but either the next verse or the verse after that, Lord Krishna says that because of being part of a particular family, you may not be able to practice the rules and regulations. And this is like that. And there's many people like that, especially students, younger people, because they're not free to have their own place. But even others, sometimes men are married to a certain wife who just really is not sympathetic to Krishna consciousness, or vice versa. That's a common one. And, to just do bhajan in the house, it may be scorned or very much looked down upon, and you have to do these things in a hidden way. So Lord Krishna says that if that's the situation, then the next best thing is do as much, give as much as you can, give as much time, give money, give donations, offer your, it's like someone's has expertise in building or gardening, then they offer their expertise, the lawyer, accountant, plumber, whatever our ability, we can offer assistance to the ISKCON temples, to the ISKCON movement, any Vaishnava movement, any God consciousness for that matter. But of course, we are followers of Srila Prabhupada, and we naturally gravitate towards supporting ISKCON, etc. So that's working for Krishna, and it's something that most of us probably lean on. We should lean on this. It may even be at some points in each of our life during the course of a year or something that we may need to even lean back on another level that which Lord Krishna will explain in the next few verses. Sometimes devotees, for one reason or the other, find themselves in awkward situations. And so Lord Krishna is offering different ways that we can stay on the path. If I can't do this, then at least I'll do this. If I can't do this, then at least I'll do that. We have these boundaries. So what else? And we have to be careful. When devotees share this kind of understanding that if you can't do this, then at least do that. We certainly want to push ourselves. We don't want to just whimsically, well, I don't feel like chanting my rounds, so I'll just work for Krishna. No. If somehow or other there's some occasional situation, but Krishna knows when we're being sincere. In the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada gives a practical suggestion how to elevate ourselves. And I think it's used in mainstream counseling as well for people who have addictions. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Devotion that a devotee should set a level of devotion. A devotee should commit themselves to devotional standards that they can follow regularly and then increase from there. And this could be true for any level of devotion. Suppose as we actually develop a taste and we really are happy to hear about Krishna and do bhajan and things like that. So we may set a goal that I'm going to chant, 20 rounds a day, or every day I'm going to do an hour of bhajan, and then increase from there. For someone who's not initiated, it might be, I'm only going to eat fish. I won't eat any other kind of meat. So according to the level, we set a standard that we can follow, and then we increase from there. All right, now I've done this for some time. I should, and maybe we consult with someone that, well, I followed this level for some time. I feel I should set a higher level. What do you think? And then we raise ourselves up. So that's a very realistic way of doing things. Because some, as devotees, we're most devotees are sincere. We want to do the right thing, but sometimes it doesn't seem we're meeting all the ideals we feel we should. And rather than become too upset about it, we should take some practical steps. All right, this is what I'm gonna do. And then we lift ourselves up. So I'll stop here. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question. Rajkishori Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it was very nice you explained that in the Daivi Varnashram, everyone will benefit for Daivi Varnashram. So how do we work outside and become purified inside? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I found that very interesting statement.
Yes. Well, I'll pass along what the advice of Srila Prabhupada. He's given us this nectar of instruction, Upadeshamrita. It's a very thin book of how to be successful. And he says in the beginning that if anyone follows this carefully, they are guaranteed to be successful. So that's the best answer that I can give, of course. But from a practical point of view, from my own point of view or experience, it's no different than that. But yeah, by having that book is about how to do sadhana, how to have enthusiasm. What are the main? There's one verse is the 6 things that are unfavorable, and then there's another text, the 6 things that are favorable. And then Srila Prabhupada describes each of those 6. And so then we read that, and then we try and actually do that. And then we'll be successful. I have worked, daily outside, regular job for over 30 years. And it is a challenge, especially in the beginning. And the main thing is our sadhana. Because our sadhana, our hearing about Krishna, is what fixes our mind upon Krishna, especially in the morning. So if we can if we can in the morning, then at least in the evening, that 2 hours or 3 hours of very concentrated sadhana. And then the rest of the day will be a lot easier. My background is with accounting and bookkeeping, and my first job was looking after the office and business of a company. So when I would count cash, I would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Krishna, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Krishna, like this, And I would see the green on the back of the American dollars. I think of Lord Ramachandra. 1, 2, 3, 4, Rama, right? So Krishna will inspire us within, in the course of our work, how to keep Krishna somewhere there, but it depends very much upon sadhana. Tesham satatam yuktinam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam jainamam upayanti te. Lord Krishna says that those who serve me with love and devotion, those who hear about me, and perhaps not love and devotion for us, but with respect and attention, I give them the intelligence what to do. So there you go. So it really all comes back to this sadhana of pleasing Krishna by our hearing about him, chanting, and following the regulative principles, and watching our sleeping. We can't be sleeping 12, 14 hours a day and expect to think very clearly. That won't work, or if we're, breaking the regular principles, we need to have as clear of a head as possible. But that's all described in that Upadeshamrita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Are there any other questions or comments? Prabhuji, there are no
As they say,
questions
where
or
there's will,
comments.
there's way. If we really want to, yeah, we will.
Prabhuji, there are no questions or comments on the chat. Maybe I can ask a question till others are thinking. Prabhuji, we are supposed to do things that would please Krishna. So we start wherever we are. We start making. So I will not eat any red meat or anything. And today, from now on, I'll just have fish. From the example you gave. So and then gradually after fish, I would probably go to eggs, and after eggs, then onions, garlic, and whatever. But would that my effort of not eating any red meat and just eating fish please Krishna? So what will please Krishna is my question. So even these small efforts, and even eating fish is bad, but if you stop it, is that good enough for Krishna, or what is good enough for Krishna? How can we please Krishna?
What's good enough for Krishna is what will be good enough for us, because this is all about, it's all about devotion to Krishna. But that devotion is good for us. All these different rules and regulations, they're good for us. They will free us from suffering from Krishna's point of view. So just like any parent, when the parent sees that the children are doing things that are not self-destructive, the parent becomes happy. Oh, this is great. I'm glad they're not doing these things that are going to bring them suffering in the future. And, naturally, when our parents are happy, then they're even more interested to benedict us. So if someone, for them, I'm just going to have fish, for them, that's an austerity. And they're doing it because they know it will please Krishna, and it will uplift them. And Krishna knows that. And so he's happy. And he'll be happier and happier as we continue to do things that will free us from suffering. You see? Yeah, there's never a time, well, Krishna's happy, I'm done. Try a husband telling that to the wife. Well, I did this, you're happy, that's it. It doesn't work like that. It's an ongoing relationship.
And vice versa, Prabhuji. I felt that Krishna has such high standards that anything you do would not be good enough for him. So that's what I thought. So like somebody has such high standards, and then you make these small efforts, you do this, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
No, Krishna's not like that. We're like that.
Yes. Thank God. Thank God. And Krishna.
God, there's someone who is understanding and considerate. Of course, he will always push us. He does want us to come to the highest standard, but he loves us. He loves us right now. He loves us always. We may not love ourselves. Oh, I'm so bad. But Krishna never thinks like that. Unconditional love. He always loves us. We should never, I'm disappointing God. He doesn't like me. My spiritual master is rejecting me. No. We shouldn't take advantage of that, but no. Krishna is the devotees, Lord Krishna says, the devotees are so dear to, even in this 12th chapter. And I think the last verse says that anyone who accepts, anyone who's on the path is very dear to him, precious. So that's good to think about.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Vishal Prabhuji has a question. Vishal Prabhuji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is that you see, it's given in Srimad Bhagavatam, the introduction. All the other processes are given, but you see, the best process is given that one should hear from a pure devotee.
Right.
So, because you know, that's much simpler than doing all this, or it's not. Like, I'm confused on that.
I wasn't able to hear that.
I'm saying, is that process much easier than all these other processes, or like, is it the best option?
I find it pretty easy just to listen to a lecture compared to doing something else. But then what's going to happen when we hear the lecture? We're going to hear instructions, right? Like when
Yes.
Krishna says, surrender to me, it's not that I surrender and then we go home. Then in Bhagavad Gita, there's all kinds of instructions and things that we need to do. So yes, to hear about it from a pure devotee is sufficient in the sense that we will learn the things that we should do and not do in our life. And then we will do those things. Another angle to that, though, is I like to share with people that wherever you're at, never stop hearing about Krishna. Never stop associating with devotees. Never, ever give up going to the temple, hearing lectures, going to fest. Never go away from devotees. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Because eventually, as you brought up, that will be sufficient. In the sense that that process alone, by Krishna's arrangement, will bring us forward. Satata, what's that? Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtan. Just by hearing about Krishna, we accumulate pious credits. We get all these coins that get dropped into our piggy bank just by listening or reading. And as those coins accumulate, it's easier for us to practice pure bhakti. Like it's said about the cowherd boys, that those souls, they have accumulated heaps and heaps and heaps of pious activities. And they're needed. So, suppose someone is really involved in the sinful activities, but somehow they're attracted to devotees. They just don't go away. Just keep on hearing. Put the beer can in the trash and hear about Krishna. Don't give up. Don't get disappointed. Any other questions or comments?
Prabhu, can I comment on this?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
You know, we have this kind of syndrome. Yeah, I'm already speaking. I wanted to verify with Dina Sharana Prabhu that these days the younger generation, they kind of have this syndrome. They're looking for pure devotees, you know. Whereas the fact that we are even with a devotee who's not pure will still give us Krishna consciousness rather than be with non-devotees. So would you like to elaborate on that? Because I've seen so many times, all the time asking pure devotee, pure, because that's what he said. Bhagavatam says pure devotee. You know, so can you clarify exactly the pure devotee, what it means? Because, you know, I joined in 1980, just Srila Prabhupada left the planet. We never looked for pure devotees. We were just happy we were with devotees. But now they're all looking for pure devotees. So would you like to elaborate on that one?
That's very, very good question. Well, back to that Upadeshamrita, not to be boring, but in there, it describes the different levels of devotees, that one should offer mental respect to anyone who's chanting God's names, and one should pay respectful obeisances and associate with those of equal, more or less equal, as friends. So there's the direct instruction that it is it is helpful and required to associate with like-minded devotees. And then together, because if someone is truly, devotee means that you're interested to think about and hear about Krishna. So we, like right now, we're hearing from Srila Prabhupada together. I'm not certainly Srila Prabhupada, but together we associate with the pure devotee by hearing their instructions. So in the next verse in that Upadeshamrita, it says that one should associate with it, one should faithfully serve an Uttama Adhikari. Faithfully serve and associate with. So it is required that we associate with the topmost evolved awakened souls that we can. We should not just associate together, just hang out and we're devotees. No. So then, well, where do we find those? Well, there, I believe we can find here on the planet alive, but for sure, there's no doubt we have the association of our ISKCON founder Acharya, and within the literatures of bhakti, we can find so many pure devotees. Just open up Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, the 11th chapter. Arjuna is a pure devotee and he's glorifying Krishna. So there's your, you want pure devotee association? There it is. But there's an art, you have to become, understand, oh, okay, this is how you associate by hearing. Even there are many prayers that describe, Lord Brahma describes in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that it is by associating with the descriptions of Krishna as they're spoken by the gopis that I understand and drink the nectar of Krishna consciousness. It's not direct, but it's by hearing these pure devotees who actually love Krishna talk about him and speak about him. And that's available in our BBT writings and other bhakti writings. So they're right. It's true. We should be careful, but we should understand how that's accomplished. Because sometimes there's something promoted that you have to physically sit in front of an Uttama Adhikari or you're doomed. There's no way you can make advancement unless you're physically in front of an Uttama Adhikari devotee. And that's not true. And Srila Prabhupada has directly said that. Just like us right now. We are sharing together. We're not changing anything. The words of Srila Prabhupada. And if we take that, oh, he said that, I'm gonna, what's the difference? I mean, there is a difference, but how's that? How does that? Any other discussion about looking for pure devotees? Another thing Srila Prabhupada says that anyone who's following a pure devotee, I mean, actually, substantially, is a pure devotee themselves. They asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, someone is asking how many pure devotees are in ISKCON. And he thought for a moment. He said, how many devotees are in right now? 10,000. There's 10,000 pure devotees. To the extent that, that they don't change anything. So that's pretty amazing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for that explanation. Sandhya Mataji has a question. Mataji, unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Hare
and
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Prabhuji, I just, I started listening to Gita only about 1.5 years ago, more so during the COVID period. And in this time, yes, I have given up meat, but in the other things, I'm still kind of in between. So I'm kind of still learning. What I really wanted to know, Prabhuji, like, for example, yesterday was my daughter's, she's 14 and she had to do a dance. And because COVID restrictions are just lifted here, they did an outdoor kind of dance party. It was Bharatanatyam, so all children were dancing and all. And then after that, they put on lively Indian music and we all were dancing. And so because it was after such a long time, we just enjoyed with the children in the party, had samosa, which I felt guilty because I could not offer to Krishna. Actually, I ate the samosa and then felt guilty because I'd forgotten, because I was outside and not at home and didn't follow the things that I'm learning and I'm doing now. But also what made me more guilty after coming back, that how could I have a good time? Because this was not done as an offering to Krishna. There was nothing in it which spoke about Krishna. However, strangely enough, my two close friends who were there they also kind of studied Gita, but we didn't talk Krishna. We just talked about, well, it's been such a lovely afternoon. We thought it's going to rain and COVID and how children were enjoying. So I'm just a bit confused. It just caused
Yeah,
me a lot of
yeah, this is
displeasure after the event that nothing I did, Krishna, was about you in this. The only thing I can say, Krishna, that it gave me joy because my daughter danced in it and I was so happy to see her happy. I ate the samosa, I danced like an idiot, like the North Indian Punjabi style because we are Punjabis. But so I don't know. Um, was I also spiritual during COVID because I was in lockdown? But I did give up, some things which make sense to me that yes, we should not harm animals to take, to kind of just satisfy my palate. So Prabhuji, what I need to know is, how does it fit? Or is it okay to do this? Uh, Really,
yeah, that's
Prabhuji, just help
that's
me. Thank you.
wonderful question. That is such a practical, good question. And that's what this chapter 12 chapters about to a large extent. Also in the third chapter, Lord Krishna touches upon this. Because Arjuna is asking that, well, you've given me knowledge, but I'm not sure I can live at that level. And Lord Krishna said, do the best you can. And don't, better a sincere sweeper in the street than a pretender. So in a broad sense, we can say, I would answer that keep the level of Krishna consciousness that you've set for yourself, especially hearing about Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna, because those two things are the main ways that we're going to advance any further, and staying near devotees who are on the path, and just live. Take care of your daughter, go to the school, musical, go to the beach, hang out with friends, and you're not going to do anything horrible, And the other thing, and part of that, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, is that we need to live in a way which is true to our nature while also pushing ourselves. So the highest ideal, as Lord Krishna said in the very beginning of this chapter, is that we do nothing other than, doing like in the temple, just serving the deity and hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna. And there's just, or we hear about the pure devotees that sit all day and chant Hare Krishna. So that's where we're going to be eventually. But we're not there now. So we were discussing. So you have some level that you've made a vow, committed to, and you understand, we understand where we ideally should be for our own happiness and to please Krishna. And we have a determination within ourselves that I'm going to get there and I'm not going to go backwards. That's the other part of this, that I'm not, it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing. Certainly the four regulative principles, I'm going to do my utmost not to put myself in a situation that I might end up breaking those. But even if I do somehow, I pick myself up, keep going. Especially Grihastha life, there's the different stages of life, student life and Grihastha life. Grihastha life is understood to be a realm, or even student life, where we have our feet on both sides of the track. Sometimes we're doing things that aren't directly Krishna conscious, but they keep us peaceful. We feel happy. And then then in that peaceful, happy, then, oh, I'm going to really chant my rounds. I'm going to hear about Krishna. I'm going to go to the temple. We're living a kind of like normal life, so to speak. We're not straining ourselves to push ourselves to some place that's really hard or that we can't keep, because then we'll get disappointed. If we're living in a family and they serve onion and garlic and it's just like, no way we can't take a vow, I'm not going to eat onion and garlic. That just won't work. We'll beat ourselves up too much. So in that circumstance, we might, we should try our best not to. But so then when we sit to eat, we can picture in our mind the same thing without onions and garlic, and we offer it to Krishna, and we apologize. Krishna knows what's going on. He knows how sincere we are. We may be in a marriage that the husband or the wife, they're not on the same perspective that we are. And what are we going to do? Get a divorce? If they're not abusive and not being mean and they do their responsibilities, we cannot divorce someone just because they're not following the same spirituality we have. And we can take that as somehow a test of our devotion, something from my past life, that I have to be in a situation like this. And we do the best we can. We do the best we can. And we push ourselves to do better. Does that help?
Prabhuji, thank you so much. Yes, I was very guilty, but you kind of put tears in my eyes, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Krishna says in the 6th chapter, I believe, he says, there's no possibility of making advancement if one is not moderate in eating and sleeping, and he mentions recreation. Something to relax, do something different. We're not going to go to hell. We're not going to forget Krishna forever. And we're careful not to get into anything really bad. And that's it. We go out and play cricket for a while. We go to a movie. Have fun with friends for a little while. Although it's understood that once we take initiation, at that point we should be significantly at peace just with devotional activities, and we don't need much more than that. Initiation does mark a particular level of Krishna consciousness, and yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna will take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, he knows what we're going to need, and he'll arrange that we get the messages and that we have the experience we need. Depend on Krishna. Krishna, please help me advance. I don't think this is so helpful, but please lead me forward.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think Sandhya Mataji and myself as well, I think the very fact that now we can distinguish that this is right and wrong. First, it wouldn't matter to me if I had a samosa and were with my friends and I was having coffee. But now I realize that I didn't offer it to Krishna. So I realized this was wrong of me. And I do that as well. Sandhya Mataji is not the only person. I don't know about everybody else, but I do that as well. So I think realizing it is the first step, probably, Prabhuji, and then slowly, we will, the sense gratification will take its own time.
Yeah. If we stay near if we stay near the light, we're going to come out of darkness. That's really the key. Just keep close to light and do the best we can. And it'll turn out. I can say that from personal experience. I was born in the West. What do I know about Krishna consciousness? Nothing, and horrible meat eating and so many things. And my grandfather would say, there'll be no talk of God in this house. So it's pretty amazing that I'm sitting here.
It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing, Prabhuji. True.
Yeah, the process works.
The process is working. So
working.
We have hopes. We have hopes. We have hopes.
Yeah, we have. If I can do it, anyone can.
No, Prabhuji, you have already got the spiritual credits that you were talking of. Your piggy bank was full. So that's why you can do. Maybe we were just starting.
And yet one thing that I've made a business of is, Lord, like we just read, that assisting devotees is so pleasing to Krishna. And Krishna says, one who spreads Bhagavad Gita and these teachings, there's no one more dear to me than he. So whatever we can do, as much as possible, help ISKCON, help the missionary work, it will come back to us. It will come. It's the best investment we can make. It will. There's a sentence in the second canto where Srila Prabhupada says, at a certain point in time, one becomes overcome by desire to serve Krishna. Just like sometimes we get overcome by other desires. By accumulating this seva, maybe even for the next life, we'll just like be born and we'll be one of those kids who are just like mad after Krishna because we accumulated, or maybe 10 years from now. So that's kind of exciting that, I'm doing this spiritual business and I'm building a bank account, and I'm going to experience the results of it more and more. It's not for nothing. Even I may be really messing up now, at least I'm accumulating for the future. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Prabhuji, there are no more questions and comments, and we are right on time. So I'll hand over to Path Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji, will you please close the session for us? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your wonderful explanation. Also, thanks all the comments and questions coming on this chart. Also, Prabhupada, in this particular text number 10, and the translation is also clear. If you cannot practice the religious regulations of a bhakti yoga, then just try work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. See, it is already written here. So we're not supposed to be worried about what will Krishna do. I'm eating this one, that one, and I'm not offering. It will happen. It will happen. If we are all perfect, we are not here. We'll all left to the Golak Vrindavan. So we are here means something is late. So it is the practice. So when we have problem, we can more to be surrender. We can more be consciousness. That is also coming. Also Bhagavad Gita is stated, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mohata bhaya. The small endeavor, the little endeavor of this religious path, it will save you from the great danger. So there is no need to worry. Krishna told us. So, but our sincere practice, our effort, our intention is that, I am supposed to be, whatever I'm taking, whatever I'm offering, I'm first offering to the Krishna. Maybe sometimes it is a problem or lack or mistake, but our intention is good. If your intention is good, Krishna name is Bhavagrahi. Yeah? He is not accept the food. He is accept our bhava. It means our intention, our heart, what we are feeling, what we are thinking. So that's no need to worry, because we are all in conditioned soul, in material life, in so many defects we have. But still, with thanks to Krishna, O Krishna, in spite of all the defects, you giving us Krishna consciousness, and it's the right thing you giving, and I am the right person to choose this one. So I thanks for that. So
yeah,
I think
Krishna's the best employer. He's the best father. He'll never throw us overboard for small mistakes.
Yes.
Not that we should take advantage, but he's so kind and understanding.
Thank you very much for Prabhuji for your class, also time, also thanks all the devotees who joined here. I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for a glorification of His grace. Din Saran Prabhuji, please join. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vancha
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
His Grace Dinesh Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.